Okay, hi, welcome everybody to Wednesday's Fireside Chat. I'm Kate from Superhighways. I'm going to be co-chairing this session with a colleague, Pauline, who's just had a few technical issues, but I think she's here, so she'll be joining us in a moment. And we've got Hannah and Owen joining us to reflect, first of all, on today's festival, but then we'll kind of move on to reflecting more generally, on today's agenda, and then we'll go on to reflecting more generally on the festival as a whole. So it's great that lots of you are still here. Please do use the chat function to ask any questions yourselves. So yeah, I'm Kate from Superhighways. We support small charities and community groups in London do more with digital and data, and we're running a large data capability program for those smaller charities in London called DataWise London. So it's great to be asked to chair this session. I'm going to ask Owen to introduce himself first, and then Hannah, if that's okay.
Hi there, so I'm Owen. I'm the Insight and Analytics lead within the data team in the Royal MEMCAP Society, but also a member of Data Collective, which is why I'm here today.
Brilliant, thank you, Owen. And Hannah?
Hello, yes, I'm Hannah Underwood. I've been the CEO of a small charity for about 15 years now called The Key, based in the northeast of England. And well, actually, I'm now the Director of Innovation and Growth, so I get to do even more exciting things, especially when it comes to data. And with another hat on, I'm also trustee of DataKind UK. And at The Key, we were one of the first charities to participate in a data dive. So I've been hooked on this stuff for quite a while now.
And it's just picking up on that, Hannah. It's been great for me in my role trying to inspire other charities. I know that DataKind use The Key as a case study. It's really good to see kind of journeys or how organisations kind of move forward with their data. So it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if there's any key highlights from either of you from today, anything, kind of any themes that have emerged or any specific sessions that got you thinking. Owen mentioned the word light bulb moment earlier backstage. So Owen, would you like to kind of kick off?
Yeah, so I mean, there was loads of interesting stuff. The real light bulb for me today of thinking about how I could sort of practice things differently is Kevin's talk on diversity monitoring and actually thinking about intersectionality through data, of not just looking at protected characteristics one at a time, being able to combine and see what that lived experience is through intersectionality, even if it is at the expense of your own data analysis. So that really got me thinking about a project I'm working on about quality of life at the moment. But also this morning with Rachel and linking up with Kate from CAF around sort of COVID-19 innovation. So there's been a lot of projects that have been forced through almost through the pandemic, and looking at, if you look at something like the PHE dashboard and how that's evolved completely over time. I work in an organisation that has care homes, and we were one time really struggling for data. We just couldn't get hold of any data on what the local incidence rates were for COVID. This is before the tier system, and before that we were hunting PDFs. But if you look at the picture of what that data looks like now, as things have improved, it's quite interesting. Doesn't mean to say that it's all good use of data or anything else, but there's been a theme with some of the British Red Cross work on the indices and COVID as well, of these things that have been forced through this kind of technical innovation or data innovation that organisations have been put in. So that was really good. I'll hand over to Hannah.
Yeah, I've had, it's been a really interesting day for me. And even though the Key's been thinking about and using data for a long time now, I don't think that journey ever finishes. And we're sort of at an important point in our journey now where we're looking to change our delivery model, and in particular to build a new digital platform to support that, which means I get the chance to sort of rethink our data collection framework and look at data quality and who we're asking the information for at what points in the process. And there's been lots of the talks today that have really got me thinking, actually starting with the data strategy session yesterday. But in particular for us, this will be the first time where we'll be communicating directly with young people and asking them to share with us their data about themselves, as opposed to through an intermediary like the youth worker. So the sessions with Kevin and Rachel today have really sent me down lots of different rabbit holes, made me ask lots of different questions about the ethics and the practicality around collecting EDI data around young people, and being really clear with them about why we want that information, for what purpose, and how we're going to use it. But also the session today with Parkinson's around using data in service design. So we're sort of currently doing a lot of work thinking about user engagements and user research, and how we can bring together like quite different types of data and data sets to help us develop new services. So there's been loads of really useful takeaways for me. Lots of homework has been generated.
Yes, and for me, it's kind of keeping a track of all of that, isn't it? The writing your kind of next steps strategy. I should have done a little bit of housekeeping before we started. So welcome to other people that maybe are just joining us now. And just whilst we wait for Pauline to connect, I should just point out the polls. So I've been asked by the organising team if everybody can vote in the poll before they leave. I'm not sure if that poll is live yet, and maybe somebody else can add a message in, but I did see on Twitter that there've been quite low levels of responses to the daily polls. So I'm just making everybody aware. The organisers would appreciate if everybody can complete that before leaving the event today. Oh, it is live. Giselle saying go to event and then polls. I think I'm in stage, so it's event. So maybe you want to do that actually. Yeah, I think you can do that now. Also, there are some winners. I can announce the winners for the most active in the expo and chat and networking. No surprise, because I think these names have popped up a lot in many of the sessions that I've attended. So the three winners from today are Nicholas Bizaz, Rima Soda and Richard Collings. Again, the DataKind team will be in touch with you with your goodies afterwards. I think there is a range of books. And also the most active on Twitter today is Dr. Emma Cowling. So yeah, those are the winners for today. I wonder whether there is some kind of wider reflections then, Owen and Hannah, across the festival. Anything that you'd like to kind of share, and do join us in chat, ask questions and share your own highlights.
It might be that these are the two things on my radar at the moment, and I've picked up the theme I wanted to pick up, but there's a lot around sort of participation and place. So there's been some really quite interesting place and community-led data conversations that have happened over the 3 days, and also around the participation of the people you're collecting data about, or having those people collect the data themselves. So that's the kind of the overarching grand themes for me that I'm taking away. And MenCap are looking at developing a more kind of community support-based model where communities develop their own programs and their own groups, rather than, you know, the top-down organization creating a program for people. So those two really came through for me, and will cause me to go away and have a ponder and a think about how we can better do that.
Thank you. And Hannah?
Yeah, I suppose for me, some of the relevant themes that have come out for the work that I do at the Key in particular is around sort of how smaller organisations can make use of data, and how, you know, there are barriers that are presented as a small organisation to being able to do this stuff well. But actually, I also think there are a huge amount of opportunities. Like, you know, you don't need to sort of turn a big tanker around, or and that also sort of leads into a theme that's been emerging around the importance of influencing like senior decision makers and the leadership within your organisation, both from like the sessions and earlier on around having a data savvy board and you know, needing to get that sort of buy-in in order to deliver sort of effective change within the organisation. And I think that there are lots of opportunities for small organisations to do that, where you know we only have 10 people at the key, so actually getting to the key decision makers is pretty easy. So I think there's been lots of things for me that have been bubbling up around that have made me think about some of the barriers, but also actually some of the real opportunities and the positive place that small organisations can work from in order to be more effective with their data.
To build on that a little bit, I mean, Hannah obviously had the brilliant DataKind project, which I've seen you talk about before. But there's also 3 or 4 other organisations here during the festival that can help small charities. So you have the Royal Statistical Society's pro bono stats scheme, and also pro bono operational research. I'm part of that on the advisory board, but there's literally hundreds and hundreds of analysts waiting for projects, and they're not getting them through. So I would encourage anyone to let them know.
Yeah, great tips, and I've been really it's been really heartening to see lots of smaller organisations join us today. I've seen them asking questions in lots of sessions, so hopefully they'll have learnt new stuff, and more importantly kind of got that inspiration and understand where they can go for help going forwards. Whilst we wait for Pauline, I was just going to reflect really actually on where the festival started. So Superhighways were one of over 20 organisations that kind of came together. I looked back through my calendar this morning. It was actually the 27th of May last year that we had the first meeting to really talk about this event. And obviously at that point we thought it might be face to face, and here we are still online. But yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what people's thoughts. I've felt it's worked really well, and really congratulations to the organisers for pulling that off. But what we were looking to address, the barriers that we kind of identified as a group. To hear your reflections, Hannah and Owen, in terms of how you felt we've done that. Really looking at the lack of awareness of what's possible. Lack of shared learning, poor availability of data sets and barriers to data sharing, and then lack of in-house capacity. So yeah, I've been to many sessions that have kind of addressed those issues. It would be interesting to hear if any particularly resonate with you.
I mean, capacity is definitely a thing. I mean, even at MenCap, it's just a huge organisation compared to many. Capacity, we're still expected to do more with less resource than any other sector. And I think sometimes charity people can beat themselves up a little bit too much about other sectors being more skilled or better or anything else. It's just the imbalance of what we have to try and do with resource. It's not through lack of will or talent. It just comes down to that imbalance.
For me, I think one of the key issues that's been tackled is around like raising awareness of what's possible. There's been some incredible case studies, and for me, I love to learn from other people's experiences and hear their stories and what they found difficult as well as what their successes were. And there's been a whole host of those over the course of the last 3 days, and others that I haven't had the chance to listen to that I know I will get round to. But I think that's a really important part, is not just is sharing the inspiration, and knowing that there will be a lot of sort of aha light bulb moments that people have had to think how that other people's stories can translate to their own organizations. So that's been a really sort of special part of the festival for me.
Yeah, and I was thinking, reflecting on the 2018, so the very first Data for Good festival, there's definitely, that kind of inspiration and things that I took away and have since done. So I was definitely inspired by the Street League's Power BI dashboard, and we've kind of had a go. Our data isn't necessarily quite so insightful, but it really kind of inspired us to think about being more open and sharing the work that we're doing and who's accessing that. Capacity is an interesting one, Owen, because I guess, you know, that could be time, that could be skills, but it's been it's interesting for me to hear from one of the organisations that have gone through our DataWise London cohort session, explaining. So it was the first time that I'd heard this, but you know, they'd started to identify that they did need more of an internal role and had looked at opportunities to do that, and were linking up with the Kickstart scheme, which is opportunities for young people and kind of shape data role. I know that the Data Collective have been doing some work looking at data roles in the sector. I don't know, Giselle, whether there's any kind of trends or, you know, interesting insight that you've picked up from that.
Yeah, and hi everyone. Hi again. I'm a substitute as our fourth person this afternoon is having technical issues, Pauline. So I'm here to close with everyone again. So I think there's something I mentioned another fireside. I think there's something really interesting with the roles that we are such a broad church, all of us here, and I'm sure we've got loads in common in terms of roles and areas that we focus on and attend to in our jobs, but also lots that's quite different. And I think that's probably quite a challenge in coming together as a community. You know, we think we're a community of however many however many thousand probably across the UK social sector, but actually there's kind of bits that resonate and probably bits that don't. And I know from talking to people across this festival, we've had people who focus on like finance, and Street League was mentioned. So Street League have merged their kind of insights and finance teams. I know from other organisations there's a kind of focus on like business intelligence that kind of sits on purpose outside of kind of other operational units. From other organisations, it's more research. Perhaps for others, it's people who are in kind of delivery roles that have a data aspect. So it's so diverse. I mean, one thing that I wanted to ask, and I think probably Hannah, a warning to you, I wanted to ask a question of you. Something that's come up a bunch is people essentially saying these challenges are organizational challenges. Like it's getting a lot of us are trying to kind of get our organizations to kind of think a bit differently. That's not something one person can kind of do on their own, but a lot of the attendees and listeners here are in operational roles. We are mostly not all CEOs. We are mostly kind of in different kind of operational roles. So how do that's a lot on our shoulders. Kind of how do we manage that? And Hannah, I know you've as the key evolved, you've gone through that evolution with the organisation. So perhaps you've got kind of a bit of a unique perspective on that.
Yeah, sorry, Kate.
Sorry, I was just going to jump in. I can see the case studies are so powerful because I can picture a slide with kind of marks and a little bubble up saying that at this point, the key started to look at an internal data role kind of thing, starting to think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've had an internal data role. So it's we have a guy called Richard who's awesome, but he is still sort of like from a freelance capacity. So he works with us at the moment 1 day a week, and depending on what sort of projects or experiments and things we're doing, like we might increase that or decrease that. But he's been really important, like consistent, like person for us. So that having that sort of longevity has been really important. But I think it's a long, slow journey, like trying to get that culture change and that sort of breeding that curiosity within the organisation from every single individual, from like that administrator to, you know, head of income generation, is, you know, everyone can benefit from more effective use of data within the organisation. And it's been finding out how we can make it relate directly to those people and to their roles, and how to make their jobs easier, and how to help them to understand when things are being successful. So it's just something that you have to keep continuing to work on, and every time you bring new people into the organization, you sort of have to induct them to the ways. And I think a sort of thing that the team used to get really frustrated with me is every time someone would come back to me with a sort of, oh, well, this has happened, we haven't had as many young people as we thought this month because, it's some holidays or it's whatever. And I'd be like, but what does the data say? And I wouldn't let anyone come up with an excuse without it being backed up by data. And people just got so fed up with me saying that eventually they would come to me with the data. But there were so many assumptions that people made that just didn't hold true when you actually looked at the information that sat behind it.
I'm going to use the word curiosity. I'm going to pick up on that, and that's the word that we use when we're starting conversations with smaller charities around data. And I went to a couple of the sessions that Sam Milsom ran, the Data Expeditions one and the Data for Communities today. And yeah, he was talking about the D word and kind of taking that out of it, and really, that kind of democratizing. Really getting everybody to see that it's something that they can be involved in within the organisation. We can all have questions. We can all kind of delve into things. And at that point, look at data.
Yeah, we actively talk about a curiosity culture, and if you look, more formally, sort of as a learning organisation, instead of trying to set ourselves immovable targets and objectives, we set ourselves learning questions. So it's like, how can we learn more about this area? And it does directly relate to, our business goals and our wider vision. But if we base it around questions and about being curious, it just takes some of that. Some of the danger that you can have around sort of setting targets and then think we want to achieve this at all costs. It's about if you frame it around learning, then people can't really make mistakes. It's just more about what information they can gather from it.
We're doing some work at the moment in MenCap around what does it mean to be evidence-led, and what we're trying to do actually then is shape that per role. So being evidence-led for a support worker is listening to somebody, reflecting on their stories, and using that's evidence and data. Whereas if it's a strategic decision maker, that might be actually, no, you need to go do a blind trial or whatever that might be, but actually creating personas of what that learning and what evidence might be.
Brilliant, thank you, Owen. I was going to pick up on the kind of shared learning bit, and something that I've heard throughout the 3 days is kind of comments about people being so generous and kind of sharing, and this kind of the community that we've got. So it'd be kind of interesting to think about how we can continue this beyond the festival, if you've got some ideas on that.
Data community, that's what I'd say. Everyone join the data community Slack channel. That's been really good. I've learned a lot from it over the past few weeks and had some help with a project that we were delivering with another charity, and some support from called finance, social finance. So that's been really good, and it's a nice place to be able to drop a question in and have some different ideas. So
I think for those of you that don't know, that's the Data Collective, I think, that you're
yes.
meeting up in. Yeah, that's relatively new initiative. Giselle, I don't know whether you were going to touch on that at the end anyway. I know you've run a session looking at learning, but this is the start of bringing together a community, really, wasn't it, that didn't exist before? Yeah.
Yeah, and I very much encourage everyone to come and be part of that community, but also shape what that community is. I think we're all used to having like stuff kind of done to us or for us, rather than kind of with us, alongside us. And I very much like to kind of break that normal template in default when it comes to the Data Collective. So if you think to yourself, it's been really interesting hearing about how other people have, to use some of the things that have been touched on, how other people are kind of going about kind of decolonizing their data. How can we, how can I keep learning from others to do that? Then come and form a work group as part of the Data Collective that focuses on that, and lead the way. You know, someone else during this festival reflected that they didn't want to let the perfect be the enemy of the good in their work, knowing that they were going to be really resource constrained when they go back to their day job. But they wanted to do something, and I think I want that to be our spirit together. You know, there's combining the fact that a lot of us are resource constrained with the other reflection we had in another fireside actually about kind of imposter syndrome, and probably a lot of us having grown kind of organic data skills, or kind of become moving into roles where maybe data is more a part of it than it used to be, and we don't kind of not super confident perhaps, and we're also not surrounded by big teams of other data people, so we don't have that kind of immediate community. So let's try and break those things. Let's try and move away from feeling like we're imposters and not acting because we're not the experts, and instead saying actually we've got a lot to contribute, and just forming those groups, talking to others, learning from others, sharing our experiences is going to get us a great deal of the way. So please come and join the collective, but also lead the collective.
And I'm sure we'll be able to share how you can do that as kind of part of the post festival comms. Charlotte's in chat that she's really enjoyed the data journey, or kind of hearing about the data journey of various organisations, and yeah, I think that's I've learned lots from those kind of sessions as well, and even if you're quite different, it's really interesting seeing the paths that other organisations have taken, and it goes back to that kind of inspiration of what's possible, but obviously with the benefit of lots of people sharing what didn't work as well as what did. Any other reflections?
Something that I've really enjoyed about the sessions is in the chats, the amount of links to stuff. I must have about 1 million tabs open on my browsers right now. I'm just thinking, right, I'm gonna have to go back and favorite them or copy them all. And but it's so powerful when you have such a diverse group of people together, and you're focusing on one topic and saying, actually, I read an article about this, and putting it in there, and just being able to help each other sort of filter through some of the noise, and being able to pick out this is something I found really useful, or this book or this article. And I've got enough bedtime reading now to last me until Christmas, I think.
Yeah, no, I wondered, Giselle, if it's possible to, for each of the chats of the sessions, whether we can kind of extract lists, those kind of things. I think, yeah, it's really helpful when other people are sharing what helped them.
Yeah, we can do that. We've been trying to kind of furiously pull them out. We've probably all got tab explosions as well. We'll try and get them into some shared Google Docs.
I've been bookmarking because I didn't have enough tabs. Just picking out something Richard Collins has mentioned. I just caught a little bit of the session. I think he's referring to Christina Finlay's 5 top tips. So he's thought that she really summed up being a data leader is about being a creative people person, but also prepare yourself for 1,000 nudges. So that's definitely a session I'm going to catch up on. Just having a look through chat. Yeah, Emmy's saying a few weeks worth of material waiting, definitely. Just having a quick scroll. Okay, so I don't know, Giselle, whether there's anything else in terms of the next steps. We kind of talked about, the magic doesn't end here. How can we, what ideas do people have? How can we kind of take this forward, keep up the momentum and the buzz?
Yeah, I'd say the first one is, as Owen wonderfully advertised, what is the Data Collective? Sign up for that. Nicole's dropped the link in the chat, so just click through and you'll see a little form appear. That's my number one. My number two is let us know what you need and want. So shortly after this, you will get a a link to a feedback form. Just got 10 quick questions. Hopefully it won't take you too long, but it's a great opportunity to kind of share what it is you need and want going after this. And I say, like, be ambitious. We're not going to look at your anonymous form anyway, so you're free from judgment. We're not going to look at your form and say, why did this person demand that we create a palace made of Power BI? We're going to look at it and essentially get a idea of what unmet need is, and try and respond. And I say we, it's like a very vague royal we. It's this collective of 27 organizations who've put together this festival. You know, we can look at that list, we can make that list public and say, hey, what you know, what are we going to do about some of these things, and perhaps some of the attendees who have been here can kind of take on leadership roles in these various projects. When it kind of comes down to it, they don't happen unless we ask for them. So I'd say my number 2 is please ask for them on that feedback form. And then my third probably call to action is in resonating with a kind of point about decentralizing power over and control and ownership over data. I'd say let's decentralize our own kind of our own journeys when it comes to support and progress on your in doing data in your organization. It's wonderful if we can do things all together, like this festival. This has been, you know, 450 people signed up and attended, and we've all been in the same place at the same time, and that's great. But if you met a couple of people in the networking who also have a shared need to develop their skills in a particular tool, or to get over a particular barrier within kind of the culture or leadership of their organization, I'd really encourage you to kind of create those peer support groups together. You've seen, I mean, with the Data Kind Hat, and we've seen over the years how powerful that is, because we've run a quite small, intimate support group for social sector data folk for a long time now, and it's been really powerful. So I'd say let's get together for some things, but also build on those individual connections. Start a WhatsApp group with five favorite people that you met at this conference, and see where it goes, and support each other.
And I guess share back what you go on to do next. So yeah, hopefully there's a bit of time for reflection. I mean, my head's kind of bursting. There's so many ideas, so it's kind of having a little bit of time and space to kind of write your list, take those actions, but then share back, so we can kind of see what happened next, and keep up that kind of learning from each other loop. I'm going to wave at Pauline. She's joined us in chat. She's here.
We have a Q&A from Tracy. After working to persuade charities to make better use of data for years now, does the panel think the tide may finally be turning and there is increased demand for more data use and support? This is our moment to be optimistic. No one say that the tide is going the wrong way. We're not allowed.
Yeah, I'd say so, at least from what I've seen in the organisations I've worked for. When I started at MainCap, considering MainCap's quite a large organisation, we had an opportunity to do a hackathon with a large international bank, and trying to get people to come up with ideas on what we could possibly work out was like trying to get blood out of a stone. But now, if I asked that same question to the same exec, they'd all come up with something, and that would be my personal journey within MainCap, I guess. It's sometimes having that example. Look, this is the art of the possible. This is the case study. This is the proof of concept that we've done. And people who don't perhaps think the same way as some of us in this conference go off and start having ideas.
Yeah, I certainly feel that the tide is turning. I feel less of a lone wolf in the Northeast charity sector doing this kind of stuff. And, you know, it's not uncommon now for people to like hit me up on LinkedIn, especially if they're in, Northeast organizations, say, can I have a chat? Can I meet for coffee? We're trying to think about our data. Can I just see how scary it is. And I just feel like there is generally more interest in it, particularly from within the social sector. So I do, and there's certainly, we've seen from all of the different sort of presentations and all the organisations that have come together to pull this festival together, how that ecosystem of support is building and growing, and to help with a whole range of different kind of challenges and barriers that organisations might have. So I definitely feel excited and optimistic, but there's also so much to do. So, but it's almost it's good in a way that there's still so much more impact that we can all have on our individual organisations and collectively across the sector, that it's a really exciting place to be right now. Also,
I think the question is probably changed a bit. At least I've been in the charity sector about 10 years now. And it's gone from you should use data to you should use data responsibly, and that idea around ethics and responsibility probably wasn't there years and years ago. It was just the fact that you should be using it for something. And that conversation is shifting now, and I think this festival's reflected that.
It does also feel like it's shifting away from just the pressure to evidence impact, and the whole the panacea is about getting evidencing impact that's further and further away from your intervention, to actually let's use data to understand, inform and improve practice. And I feel like that tide is turning, which is really exciting for me.
And from our perspective, supporting really small organisations, definitely moving away from that kind of funded driven, just collecting data and reporting back to funders, but beginning to kind of use it to learn and improve service delivery and kind of influence. I think Tracy was in our session yesterday, but for our DataWise London programme, we thought it might have been a harder sell than it's turned out to be, because I think that the appetite, we're definitely seeing it. And when we're having 60% of organisations accessing the kind of entry level to that programme with the incomes of under 250k, it's kind of happening at those kind of micro charity level as well. So it doesn't depend on size. That kind of curiosity and kind of change in the way organisations are viewing and wanting to use their data. I can definitely say we're seeing that change too.
Okay, shall I wrap us up?
Yes, let's go for it. We're dead on 5. This
has been wonderful fireside chat. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Owen. Thank you, Kate. And it's a wonderful way to wrap up what's been three intense days. We've had 73 sessions. We've had 100 spot on wonderful speakers, and lots of chat, lots of new friends and acquaintances made. By the sounds of it, lots of light bulb moments, lots of ideas for people to take back to their organisations, which is exactly what we were aiming for. Kate in the chat a moment ago pasted in the barriers that the partner organisations who put this together came up with when we were initially saying, okay, why are we kind of doing this again? Why are we putting on the festival this year? And it was good to be reminded of them, because it looks like we've managed to I hope begin to pull some of them down. In terms of what next, I've already given my thoughts on kind of how you can keep this energy up. So I won't say those things again, but I will say more specifically with the festival. This is our second time running this kind of event. We had the Data for Good conference in 2018, for which Data Orchard, you may have heard Sian's wonderful talks earlier in the festival, with a primary partner, as well as or being supported by about 20 other organisations. Again, this year, this has been very much a collective effort of 27 support organisations, mostly charities, who are working in this space to help other charities use data better. And you've heard from me and DataKind being the primary delivery partner this time. Who will it be next time? If you think that sounds like you and your organisation, I'd love to chat, and we can keep kind of handing on the flame of this wonderful festival and ensure it keeps burning bright. If you are not quite satiated and you think, I would quite like some more of this immediately, please, go to our website, and there's the Data for Good Fest website has a fringe tab. Click on that. We have a ACE collection of other stuff that's happening through the month of May, so things other organisations were doing on the topic of data in the social sector. So go and have a look, and you can keep the party going. Oh my gosh, is that Pauline?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I finally got it sorted out, but anyway, thanks everybody.
Any parting words, Pauline?
Well, I wanted to reflect on having met Hannah at my first ever DataKind data dive many years ago, and I was so impressed by her then, and I continue to be impressed by her, especially because she was not London based. She brought so much energy and pizzazz to the whole setting, and it's great to see her continue on with her leadership. So thank you.
And following on from there, this isn't scripted, but I don't know where the kind of congratulations to Giselle and the organising team is. So feel like I need to say that, and I'm sure lots of people will jump in chat and kind of echo those thoughts. I think you've done an amazing job.
Absolutely superb.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, and as I say, not on our own, with great help from our all the organisations represented, and in total 27 of us pulling this off, and great support from Beacon House Events, who have been have talked to all our 100 speakers and got everyone in order and put together our programme, and we've got support from Coal House as well, doing some furious tweeting. So thank you for this wonderful family that put this together. Okay, on that note, I'm going to let you all go. We're running a few minutes behind. I hope you have a wonderful evening and rest of your week, and please do keep the conversation going in whatever format is best for you. Okay, thank you all. Bye.